Welcome to Fortune Friday, an interview series where I speak with entrepreneurs about money, the lessons they've learned, relationship with, and the big dreams for their business and lifestyle. My name is Connie Vanderzanden, and I am a cash flow and business mentor. And on today's episode, I'm chatting with Denise W. Grove, a business and personal financial consultant and coach. Denise, with an empathetic heart of a teacher, is incredibly approachable, sharing her substantial knowledge to guide others. As a business founder and owner, Denise's approach adds immediate benefit by listening to client concerns and goals, taking a genuine interest in learning about the overall organization, and adding her knowledge and experience to guide the most practical solution, which best meets needs now and in the future. She comes highly recommended to guide others towards stable finances, which in turn allows focus on what they do best, running their business and personal life. Denise is a Georgia native, shares her practical advice with down-to-earth explanations to improve others' understanding of their options and opportunities, with emphasis on financial consequences. An advanced certified Profit First professional, a Dave Ramsey trained personal financial master coach, and a QuickBooks Elite Pro advisor, her certified public accountant and chartered global management accountant specializations focus on better financial results. After graduating in accounting from Auburn's University's nationally ranked Harvard's Business School, her accomplished career spans a wide array of industries and organizations, blending Big Four, KPMG, International Public Accounting, Fortune 500, and entrepreneurial hands-on experience. Denise, her husband, and their 2 rescue dogs live outside Metro Atlanta near her grandparents' former farms, and her do-good mission is to leave people in situations better than how she found them. And on today's conversation, my top 3 takeaways were, well, we first start talking about her rescue dogs and what I called her trust fund for them. Not only that, but how she has indicated in her will 2 different caretakers, a primary and a backup. So I found that was interesting. I don't think a lot of people consider that. I know I don't think my dogs are in my will. I need to go look at that. We also talk about money personality tests to figure out what our natural habits are. And she does share an automation tool she talks about automation and how that can help with investing. Her roadblock was around underpricing, which I think is a common mistake. I know I've made it several times. And so I liked our conversation about that. But the one takeaway that I really liked, because I've yet to hear this mindset shift, was how you are the investor in your business. It's a slight shift, but I think it was an interesting part of the conversation. So I really hope you enjoy it. I know I did. So here's my conversation with Denise Grove. Well, thank you, Denise, for joining me today on our Fortune Friday interview. So excited to have you here. I want to know, I want you to tell us a little bit about your rescue dogs, actually. That was what I wanted to start with. You have 2?
I have 2. They are just the 2 that are with me after a long line of puppies that were rescued, or better yet, my theory is dogs find me that need homes. Cats are also the fortunate beneficiaries of my desire to take care of all living things. Our 2 right now, one is a black Labrador who was looking for a home when he was 3 months old and ended up in my garage eating cat food out of the cat's bowl. I had a garage kitty who loved being able to come in and out of the garage through the doggy door, which was, of course, from my last set of large dogs. And so he, of course, immediately became a family member. What we realized, though, was that as a young puppy having a lot of energy, he really needed a playmate. And so when he was about a year old, the vet had another shepherd mix dog looking for a home. And Jet and Josie, now her name was Whiskey, according to the people that were rehoming her. So I named her Josie, and Josie and Jet are just the best pair. And so I'm a firm believer that dogs find you that need you.
I love that. I love that. And how old are they now?
Well, Jet just turned 13 on May 1st. Fortunately, I do know his mother's people. And so she actually lives one road over from us, which is how he found my cat food so easily. And so he just turned 13. And so Josie's probably about 11 and a half.
Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, I always love to hear about pets that we foster or that find us, because my second dog was a foster dog, and so I really appreciate that whole process of it. So
So are
I
you saying you're a foster fail?
well, they yeah he was supposed to be just a foster, and then he just stayed.
Exactly.
We adopted him. So
Exactly.
yeah, I don't think I could be a true pet foster family. I don't think once they come in, they're so much part of the family. I don't think I could give them back to somebody. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Well, and that's my rule is if somebody is around and they seem hungry, if I don't feed them the first day because I do want them to go home if they're meant to, but day two, you get a bowl and unless you leave, you're adopted. It's very straightforward. But I wanted on a financial literacy point, I do have a provision in our wills for not only one person who will take the dogs and keep them together in the event my husband and I are unable to, I have a backup person. So my pets have guardians, and my guardians have money, established to take care of the pets and keep them together for the rest of their lives.
I love that. And we thought about that with our chows. We realized it would have been hard to rehome them if something had happened to us. How did that come about? Did you have that from an early childhood memory about animals, or did you just think about them?
No, what happens is, I share, the rescue groups around here. When I see dogs, that need fosters or are looking to be adopted. And the ones that break my heart the most are the poor dogs whose owner has died, and no one in the family is either in a position or is willing to take the dog in for the rest of its life, or a cat. And that just breaks my heart because the animals world has just, crashed and burned with the loss of their bonded person. And then here they are either in a shelter or in a rescue with all these strange, people and animals. And I just sat there and I thought, that's not happening to my critters.
Yeah, yeah, it's super important. I had that happen when my stepdad was aging, and he had a parrot, and we had to have those conversations. But we learned about it because when his mother passed away, she had a very personable parrot as well. And so those ideas came up earlier in my life before we even had pets as a family, to think about what would happen when, type of thing. But I love that you've set aside a trust fund for it.
Actually, yeah, my dogs have a trust fund, or any future animals that come to be with our family have their own little trust fund. And like I said, they have a guardian and a backup guardian. And of course, I am a big proponent of, you know, parents, having guardians, outlined in their end of life planning. And so, I mean, to me, the dogs are part of the family. The cats are, it could be a horse, it could be any kind of domestic animal, like you mentioned, a parakeet. But I think people don't think about it. And but interestingly enough, when I was talking with my attorney, who happens to be a high school and grade school friend, when I said, what do we do about the animals? He immediately says, oh, I have a clause. So it was not a foreign topic. I just am not sure that people that, I mean, of course, he has two golden retrievers. So, of course, he had a clause,
Yeah.
right? But anyway, I just think it's something that people don't think about. We're hesitant to think about end of life planning, just like a lot of times we're intimidated to talk about money and get real about the money.
Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate you being here for the conversation today. Let's get back to money. Do you remember what your earliest memory of money is?
I do, and I love the fact that you had asked me if I was comfortable talking about that question because it brought back such great memories. When we would go to my grandparents, I'm named for my maternal grandmother. And so, of course, I was the favorite out of all that brood of grandkids. But no matter who was there, my granddaddy always gave us each quarter. And so my first memory as of at that point where I was old enough to have the quarter without putting it in my mouth and trying to swallow it, because then we would get in the car and go up to the corner store, which is thick out in the middle of nowhere in farmland. And we got to use our quarter to buy those candies out of those glass jars.
Yeah.
And so my favorite was double bubble gum, much to my mom's dismay. And so I remember that so clearly. And the other thing I thought about was also on my maternal great aunt used to send me birthday cards that had a little slot in it where you put little dimes in it.
Oh,
So she'd send you a dollar's worth of dimes in this cool little greeting card. And I always thought that was just the neatest thing. And the one I remember most vividly was a tree. So she had money growing on trees already for me.
that's that is cool. I had totally forgotten about getting cards like that from my grandparents. So I love the visual. Is there anything else that your family taught you or that you learned about money from them?
Um,
Did you have any entrepreneurs in your family?
Not really so much entrepreneurs. And I thought about that too. Because one of the things I have my clients do is take a money personality test. I don't know if you've ever taken one, but they're great tools to figure out what your money habits are already naturally. But I was raised by a spender and a saver attempting to live in the same household. So for mother, I learned to be careful with my money and to say, to take, actions that help me accumulate and save money. I clearly remember going to the savings and loan and opening one of those passbook checking accounts, savings accounts, where the teller wrote your deposit in the book for you and you kept up with the little book. And now you could still do that with a lot of the automations that we have, at least here in the US. And then of course what I got from my dad is that if we needed the money, we would figure out how to get it.
Oh, I like that. If you needed the money, they would figure out how to get it.
Yes. And on that, on a more step back plane, what he was saying is God always provides.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Did he put any Was there any boundaries around the word need? Do you remember?
No, probably not. And I'm sure we were talking about an overpriced pair of designer blue jeans. But as an adult, especially in my 20s, struggling, fresh out of school and sort of shocked at how much apartment rent, utility bills, car insurance, how much that outflow turned out to be compared to my what I thought was a good salary. He probably was talking more in terms of, if there were medical needs, if you need food, shelter, kind of basic needs is probably more what he was talking about when I became a little more mature and could live without Gloria Vanderbilt
Yeah,
on my jeans.
yeah. I also wonder too, because a lot of the times when we get in that spiritual side of things that God will provide or the universe will provide, and I remember doing this myself, is there was no action. It was more of it will magically line up and fall on my doorstep type of thing. I'm going to assume that your dad wasn't that was just going to show up. Perhaps he was showing some bit of action as well.
Yes, in other words, he was saying, whatever you do, don't miss a car payment where I've co-signed for that loan, or you're going to hear about it. And I did learn at an early age, you did not want to hear negatively about anything from him. You always wanted him to be going thumbs up.
Yes, yes. Well, awesome. So I'm going to guess because you're a financial literacy type of person. You have a background in accounting. You're a certified profit first professional. You like numbers.
I do. In fact, if you ask me to pick between a Sudoku puzzle and a crossword puzzle, I mean, I'm all over the numbers. And I'm very comfortable with numbers. And of course, I was naturally good with math.
Mhm.
But I cannot spell without a dictionary or, looking it up on the computer programs now. And the worst thing you could ever ask me to do is play Scrabble.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Connie.
No, I love my spell check and I use Grammarly a lot. I really lean into it. Um, so we've learned a little about your where you came from with your money. And this isn't always something that people are really open about. And I've talked to several entrepreneurs in my interviews, and they don't look at this roadblock as necessarily a bad thing. Roadblocks are usually something where, like for me, I was at the bottom of a hole looking up at 50,000 in debt and not paying myself for 6 years. There was that moment of time of like, this has to change, or this was a really strong kick in the butt learning opportunity. Have you ever had one of those, especially when it came to money, maybe in your business or your personal life, where you're just like, no, this has to stop?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things entrepreneurs I think are classically known for doing is, underpricing
Mhm.
a lot of times, especially initially, because you're so excited to get a client, you don't want to run them away by quoting a number that they're going to just completely think, oh, well, I can't do that. I don't have that money, or that was like way higher a fee than I expected. And so, right off the bat, I said I underpriced myself, and ended up working a lot more than I had thought I would, self-employed, which is a whole different entrepreneur, business owner topic. But it was very, very difficult for me to stop and say, I have got to raise my fees to the right level for the service that I'm providing because of the fear of losing clients.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that's for our listeners, raising fees is a big thing because I think a lot of times when we go into business, we don't have confidence in what we're going to charge. So we usually charge what everybody else is charging, but we don't know what their expenses are, or what their overhead is, or anything around that, or how they process the work. Sometimes I need a little bit more time on the front end than I do in the middle piece. And so maybe my time in the front, I need more hours in there to gauge that piece. I remember when I went from solo home based at one price, which was a typical rate for bookkeepers, to having commercial space and team, and I didn't raise my rates. And I find
Ugh.
that a lot of times happens with like contractors or anyone who adds or grows and adds something. We forget to add that cost in and that profit margin on top of that. And so, yeah, we will barely make enough, and who gets shorted is usually the owner.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that brought me to becoming a profit first professional, and getting certified. So when I first listened to Mike McCallowitz, the author of Profit First, read on Audible to me as I was driving in Atlanta traffic, I sat there and I thought, holy mackerel, this is a game changer, not only for me as how I operated my money, here I am a degreed accountant, who's good with money, to and my clients, where I could see the savings of just stress and angst about where's this money going to come from. Because when things got tight, the first person that skipped her paycheck was me.
Yep. Yep. I've seen that more than once. I was talking about that cash flow and let's go back. So I've had the business for 19 years. So this was, 22 years ago. The common thing I would hear from tax pros is they would sit down with their clients is like, spend all the money that you can in December to lower your tax liability. And then we would go into the new year, and the first 3 months they would be cash poor. And so the owners always had to, wait on their paycheck, which if you don't also have the financial situation at home where you've stockpiled or have savings that you can pull from, that is really hard to do. And that's why businesses get into that issue of not enough cash, because they can't wait. They have to get paid, and debt increases, and it's a cycle. And I believe, as you do, that the profit first, that cash handling system, an intentional cash handling system, can get you out of that cycle. And I know you have a big dream. And it's part of the big dream is teaching people. So tell us about what that looks like for you.
Well, one of the things, especially being closer to the end of a career, and after turning 50, I kept thinking there's a legacy that I am supposed to leave to help the rest of the world.
Mhm.
And I have thought about that and prayed about it, and have looked for that answer. And my answer is I have a lot of financial and business and nonprofit know-how in my brain. And I have got to get that know-how out of my brain and onto a piece of paper to help others. So I've had an aha moment thanks to the pandemic, causing me to pause and stop driving in Atlanta traffic everywhere. And I am in the process of working on a book series, I think it's going to turn out to be, of financial tips, not only business, but also personal,
Mhm.
for especially business women owners, including those that are running a household and have children, in the house, a how-to book to make it simple to stay on top of your money and not be an ostrich. I
Mm.
know I don't look like an ostrich, but for the longest time, I was an ostrich.
Yeah.
And the money just happened. I let it happen to me as opposed to telling my money where to go.
Yeah. Curious, when you realized you were an ostrich, how did you come out of that? Did it take some time to learn? I mean, was there something that triggered that you realized that you weren't paying attention, or that you came out and you immediately went to the other side of like being angry about it, or you wanted to take action and do it your way, or how did that come out?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say I was angry per se. Fed up
Mhm.
is fed up with me, because like here I am helping all these other people improve their finances, but I'm not doing it to myself.
Mhm.
Um, Kind of like that old saying of the shoemaker's children have no shoes.
Yeah.
And the great news is though, Connie, because I set up several automations early on, in my career and in my business, so that all along I've been saving money automatically. In other words,
Mm.
instead of the money being in the checking account, or in my case, the spending account, um, then I accumulated money. And so I get an A+ for that.
Yeah.
But what I did not do is be intentional about managing my money. So what I did was I got myself an accountability partner.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Just like I love to go to aerobics and jazzercise and work out at the gym, but I always had a friend that met me there for the class, which gave me in my mind, a commitment, an appointment. And there's just nothing worse to me than somebody that's not dependable and
Mhm.
doesn't do what they say they're going to do. So I found a really close friend who also was kind of beating herself up because she did not proactively manage her money and make money decisions. So we have what we call Money Wednesdays.
Oh,
We have an appointment on the calendar. We check in with each other. And my first question that I ask her is, I said, "Have you checked your investments?" Because you can look at them, but if you don't rebalance, or take some action. And so my action was finding an accountability partner. So now, if I don't look at my money on Wednesdays and be real intentional, I actually have, a list of things that I look at and things that I consider. Um, and then I look at different things each quarter, by spreading it out. I'm really proud of myself because now not only do I look at it, I do something about it. If I have a poor performing stock, I sell it.
mhm.
Whereas 10 years ago, it would have just stayed in my portfolio.
Mhm. Yep.
So, and the other thing that I've done is I've been much more intentional about automations. There's a lot of automations that will take funds out of your account. You can set it up whatever amount a week or a month, and also have roundup features.
Hmm.
So they round up everything you've spent. And so I've got a couple of those set up because I'm one of those people that if I haven't tried it and experienced it, I don't like to recommend others try it. So I'm my own guinea pig too. And so I love it. I started with one right after I became a Dave Ramsey personal financial coach that I heard about through some of the group there. And it's taking $5 a week out of my checking, my operating or my spending account, and like I've accumulated like $2,300
Yeah. That's so awesome.
out
It's
of sight, out of mind.
yeah. When I was when I first implemented Profit First, I had to do that with not only paying myself, but for savings as well. I had to create an automation and it had to be, it wasn't even a percentage. It was just a flat amount. And it was a small amount and it seemed really ridiculous at the time, but I was transferring $5 a week. And first off, a bigger amount would have been too scary at the time because 98% of what was coming in was going back out.
Right.
But it's consistent in that this once it grows and it's there's
Right.
so much magic in that. You feel more stable, more grounded with your money just by creating a small profit account.
Exactly. Well, and of course, the other thing is, especially like if you just start with 1%.
Mhm.
Um, and so, and maybe you know what 1% is. You feel so empowered, like, yes, I am doing something for me and it feels great,
Yeah.
right? It, and I have to admit, Connie, I'm a numbers person. So for a long time, it was just numbers.
Mm.
But what I have realized, especially in the last decade, is there's a lot of emotion in that money.
Mhm. There
And,
is.
and maybe it was implementing profit first on the business where I went, golly, this really does feel good to take a paycheck.
It feels awesome. It feels awesome. And it depends on your personality style too, what that looks like. I mean, I physically had to change the behavior instead of paying down my credit card, my personal credit card, which is a great, easy automation to do from the business. I wasn't connected at all to that. And it's interesting, I think, the more we use debit cards in our society, the less we're connected to actual cash. So I had to like write myself a physical check and, deposit it in my personal account, make that energetic connection to how the business was supporting my household. And just that intentionality, that level of intentionality can change a business.
Yes,
And a lot of small businesses don't do that. They just pull out money as they need it. If you can stop that habit and change, intentionally pay yourself twice a month or however you need to contribute to your household. For me, it was that weekly payment for a while. It'll change your perspective on, yes, your business is supporting you.
exactly. And another concept that I really hadn't thought about was, the business was running me. I
Mhm.
was not running the business. So being intentional and thinking about the business as though I was an investor,
Oh,
just like in a Fortune 500 New York Stock Exchange company, the board isn't calling me, or the CEO is not calling me asking me, should we do this, Denise? No. And so, your business should support your life, not be your life.
I love that.
And that was a kind of an aha also that I've had over the last 3 or 4 years. Um, because one of my clients in the early 2000s, I've been in business for myself since 1998. I mean, we're talking about over 20 years. Early on, he told me about that book, The E Myth,
Oh,
which also says you need to work on your business. So, of course, in my spare time, I did pick up a copy of the book and I looked at it and I read the book and I thought that is me because I was working in my business, not on my business.
mhm.
So the whole money side of the business is something that you need to work on so that it's supporting your life. But let's face it, a lot of entrepreneurs, whether we realize that's what we are or not, you know, we start a little side business to have extra cash. So we don't really think of it as a business, and we should,
Mhm. Yeah.
because I'm sure you're underpricing even in those situations.
Yeah. It's just about being more intentional with what the business purpose is and where what you're doing with it. And that I think also COVID has given us this opportunity that so many of us had to pivot or find different ways of doing it. And if it was
Right.
something, if we had created a business that we didn't like anymore, that wasn't feeding us, did we have an option of saying goodbye to it, to close it and to move on to something else? Or like when I was at my rock bottom moment, I didn't see how I could get out of the debt or out of all the obligations or out. And so that was harder to move forward or make a different choice. And so being more intentional, I think, is one of the key things, especially what the cash handling system does, even though Mike doesn't really call it that in the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is what it is. It's an intentional cash handling system where you're saying to the business, this is what I need, this is what my household needs, this is what my dreams want. This is, and so I can create this because entrepreneurs can go out and create magnificent things. You give them a price point, like your dad said, if you really want it, it will be provided. You can just go out and create it. There's no problem there. It might be finding the right clients or finding the people that will resonate with what you want to do, but that's just about talking to people and letting people know what's going on. So um, I love this though. I'd not have ever thought about being the investor in your business. That's definitely going to be one of the top tips.
Well, I think that it's a mindset. I know that mindset, it seems to me, especially during the pandemic, everything was about mindset, but there's a lot of value to that,
Yeah.
because it is a different way to look at it. Because I do find that with most small business owners, the place where their business ends financially and their personal begins, there's not a real defined barrier.
Mhm.
And if you look at your business with that mindset that I'm investing in it, it helps to create a little better barrier.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So as we wrap up, I always like to end with some type of inspiration. Can you share gratitude about your business and how it contributes to your life?
Probably the biggest gratitude is that I get to help others. Kind of the whole thing about all of this in this brain that's accumulated for these decades. Some of it's some pretty good tips and it's easy. So I do like to, the fact that I get to help people and see the light bulb go on because a gift that I have is I can take really complicated stuff like financial jargon or accounting ease is what I love to call it and explain it in plain English.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that is not something that everybody with my credentials can do.
No, no. I talk a lot about finding tax professionals and accounting professionals that can talk your language. And we need number focused people. We need those people that want to look at tax law. We need that type of personality. And there are some that also can translate it and have the communication skills to support us where we're at. We don't have to uh, just sit across from them and just hear jargon back. And it's actually their responsibility to learn how to educate us. And we just have to ask for that and find it. And there's more and more out there. We're learning those skill sets and we're bringing that to the forefront. It's just a matter of making sure to find it. But I
Well,
think if we ever
it's
get more,
intimidating.
yeah, I think it gives a whole space there for more women to come into the financial industry rather than it being white, male, patriarchally led. If we could have more female accountants to bring in, we'll bring in that natural educator, nurturer, some type feelings. So,
I have to agree. And I would like to, my goal is to provide a coaching and a training and an education environment um, that's warm and safe.
mhm.
I think that so many women, smart women, have shared with me that the whole thing is a little intimidating, as well as I think we a lot of times get a mixed message, not to worry our pretty little heads about that. So being in a situation where it's warm, with an empathetic ear, um, listening, and also trying to explain it in English. And and my big thing is, and my clients love it. It's either money in or it's money out.
Mhm.
Okay, so forget all the jargon, blah blah blah. And I mean, I'm a CPA. I studied all that accrual accounting, but in a small business, let's just face it, it's money in and it's money out, and the sooner we think about it that way, the better we all will be.
Yes, yes, yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, Denise, thank you so much for showing up today. As people have questions or they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that? Is it to get on your email list?
Either you can get on my email list, and I'll share that link and for the notes, or you can follow me on social media. Yeah, Denise W. Grove. Just Google me, and I should pop right up to the top.
Nice, nice. Is there a social media platform you prefer the most?
I use most often LinkedIn and Facebook.
Nice, nice, awesome. And so, yeah, everybody that would like to follow up and find more, because Denise shared a lot of financial tips here. And I know that if you do sign up for her email list, again, that link will be in our show notes. She's going to share a lot of money tips, mostly for small business, but a lot of personal finance tips, which is something I don't share a lot of. And I really appreciated some of the tips that you shared here today. So thank you for joining.
Oh, it was my pleasure. And just remember, all new habits just have to start.
I love that. Good ending there.
Intentionally start.
Intentionally start. All right. Thanks, Denise.